Welcome back to Promptly Speaking, everyone. So glad you could join us today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to be here. And of course, I'm James.
And I'm Abby, and oh boy, do we have a chilling deep dive for you today. Like this one just kept me up.
Oh, me too, Abby. Me too. We're heading back in time to tackle one of history's most notorious, most enduring true crime mysteries. The name alone just sends shivers down your spine, doesn't it?
It really does. We are, of course, talking about none other than Jack the Ripper. Get ready for a wild ride.
So, Abby, when we talk about Jack the Ripper, we really have to set the scene, don't we? I mean, late 19th century Whitechapel, that was like a whole different world.
Oh, absolutely, James. I mean, we're talking about East London, right? Very, very poverty stricken, overcrowded, dirty, just a real grim atmosphere. Like, imagine narrow, dark alleyways, gas lamps flickering. It just screams like a perfect setting for something truly awful to happen.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, these weren't just isolated incidents, were they? It was like a sudden wave of these incredibly brutal murders. And boom, Jack the Ripper is suddenly like a household name.
Yeah, it exploded onto the scene. And it wasn't just like a local scare. The whole city, London, and it was gripped by this intense panic. People were absolutely terrified to go out, especially at night. It's almost unimaginable, really.
Yeah, I mean, the details coming out were just horrific, right? And the media, oh man, the media just absolutely ran with it. Sensational headlines, illustrations. They really fueled that fear, didn't they?
Oh, they totally did. And I think that's why it spread so fast, too. You had like these penny dreadfuls and newspapers just, screaming about Leather Apron initially before Jack the Ripper even stuck. And it made it feel, I don't know, almost larger than life even then.
Yeah, and it's interesting because on one hand it's informing people, but on the other it's like creating this monster in the public imagination that just took hold. And the police, I mean, they were just completely overwhelmed.
Oh, completely. And you can tell, like, the public trust must have been just like completely, decimated during this time because they weren't finding answers and these murders just kept happening. It's just a grim, grim picture. So, we've talked about the atmosphere, right? The fear that gripped London. But I think it's so important to remember, like, who these victims actually were. They weren't just headlines. They were real women with lives, albeit really difficult ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first canonical victim, right, Maria Nichols, also known as Polly, hers was found on August 31st, 1888. And, the brutality of it, even from the very first one, it was just immediately striking.
Yeah, her throat was like severely cut, and there were these abdominal mutilations, and it set this really gruesome pattern that would unfortunately just continue. And then not long after, Annie Chapman was found, right?
That's right, just a week later, on September 8th. And her injuries were even more extensive, indicating an increasing savagery. I mean, the sheer surgical precision, really, of some of these wounds, it was baffling to the police. It really was.
Yeah, and I think that's what really set him apart, too, from just like regular street violence. It was this almost clinical nature, but at the same time, incredibly brutal. And then we had what they called the double event, which was just, I mean, that must have been terrifying for the city.
The double event. Oh, that really escalated things, didn't it? September 30th, 1888, Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes, found within minutes of each other in different locations. Stride's murder, it seemed like the killer might have been interrupted.
Yeah, she had the throat cut, but like the mutilations that were characteristic of the Ripper weren't completed. But then only like 45 minutes later, Catherine Eddowes was found with, absolutely horrific mutilations. Her face, her abdomen, and like part of her kidney was removed. I mean, it's chilling.
It's beyond chilling. It suggests a level of anatomical knowledge, or at least a macabre curiosity that was just unheard of. And then, of course, the last canonical victim, Mary Jane Kelly, her murder was it was the most horrific of all, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Mary Jane Kelly, November 9th, 1888, found in her room. And this one was like, it was different because it happened indoors in a private space. The brutality was it was indescribable. Her body was disemboweled, organs were removed, her face was unrecognizable. It was pure, unadulterated horror.
Yeah, and it really solidified like the monster that Whitechapel believed was lurking in the shadows. And you have to pause and remember that these were people. You know, they had struggles, they had lives, they were just trying to survive in a really, really tough environment. And they met this just unspeakably violent end.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes, the Ripper case so enduringly fascinating, but also just so profoundly sad. It's the human element, the lost lives behind all the gruesome details.
Yeah, and that leads us right into like the absolute nightmare of trying to catch him, doesn't it? I mean, the police, they really were up against it.
Oh, completely. You think about it, James. Late 19th century London, no DNA, no fingerprinting, not like we know it today, no centralized forensics. It was they were essentially flying blind in so many ways.
Yeah, and the pressure must have been immense, right? I mean, the public was absolutely terrified, and the media, oh boy, the media was just like fanning the flames every day. New headlines, new scares.
And the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee, remember them? They were even like offering their own rewards and sending out their own patrols. It just shows how little faith people had or how desperate they were because the police just weren't getting anywhere.
Right, and it wasn't just like a lack of technology, was it? It was also the sheer chaos of the environment itself. Dark, winding alleys, gaslight, fog, a transient population. I mean, how do you even begin to track someone in that kind of setting?
And the sheer number of suspects that came out of it, I mean, over the decades, even now, people are still putting forward new theories, aren't they? Like everyone from royalty to artists to doctors.
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, the list is endless. You've got Aaron Kosminski, of course, who, some recent DNA analysis, though debated, has pointed to. There's Montague John Druitt, the barrister, George Chapman, a.k.a. Severin Klasowski. Even, Prince Albert Victor, Duke of Clarence, was a popular one for a while, though that's largely debunked.
Yeah, and what about Walter Sickert, the artist? That theory gained a lot of traction, with Patricia Cornwell's book and all that. It's just wild how many different people have been named.
It is wild, and it all stems back to that lack of definitive evidence at the time. Because they couldn't definitively say, this is our guy, this is how we know, it just left this enormous void for speculation to just run rampant.
Like, think about the crime scenes themselves. They were trampled. Evidence was unknowingly destroyed. Witnesses were often unreliable, either because of fear or, just the circumstances they lived in. There was no real concept of preserving a crime scene.
Exactly. And the communication between police divisions. I mean, the City of London Police and the Metropolitan Police, they had their own separate investigations going on. There wasn't like a cohesive, unified effort, which today you just can't even imagine.
No, you can't. And I think that's part of the enduring mystery, right? Because if they'd had, today's forensics, even just like proper fingerprint analysis, we might actually know. But because they didn't, it's just this constant, well, who was it? And everyone has their own pet theory.
Yeah, and it's become this like almost a cottage industry of ripperology, hasn't it? People dedicating their lives to sifting through these tiny little scraps of information, trying to piece together a puzzle that, frankly, might just be missing too many pieces to ever fully solve.
It's true. It really is the ultimate cold case, and one that, I don't know, it almost feels like it benefits from that unsolved nature. It fuels the fascination, even though it's so frustrating for those who want definitive answers.
You know, you're so right, Abby. That unsolved nature, it's almost like the core of its enduring power, isn't it? Like, if they had caught him, I wonder if we'd still be talking about him with this much, well, fascination or, morbid curiosity.
I really don't think so. I mean, it would be another tragic historical case, but the fact that he was never caught, that he just like disappeared back into the fog, that's what makes him a legend almost, and a terrifying one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just the mystery, right? It's the sheer brutality too. The way he the way he operated, it just taps into something really primal, I think, in human fear. The unknown monster lurking in the shadows.
It absolutely does. And it's become, I don't know, almost a foundational story in true crime lore. I mean, when you think of historical serial killers, Jack the Ripper is usually the first name that pops into people's heads. He's like the original template.
Yeah, he totally is. And his impact on popular culture is just immense. I mean, think about it. Hundreds of books, movies, TV shows, documentaries, video games, even. There are Ripper tours in London still. People flock to them. It's wild.
It really is. And it's interesting because even though it's such a dark part of history, it kind of inadvertently pushed things forward too. Like thinking about how they failed to catch him, it eventually led to like what we now understand as modern criminal investigation.
Yeah, that's such a crucial point, Abby, because the lack of success, the sheer frustration, it really highlighted the need for more systematic approaches. I mean, the idea of criminal profiling, for example, really started to take shape, even if it was in its infancy. They were asking, who would do this? Why?
Exactly. They started like even if they didn't call it that, looking at the patterns, the modus operandi. And then forensic science, too, the botched crime scenes, the lost evidence. It eventually led to the realization that, oh, we need proper preservation, we need better analysis methods.
Totally. I mean, you can trace a direct line, arguably, from the Ripper case and its failures to the very foundations of, what Scotland Yard would eventually become in terms of its scientific capabilities. The sheer desperation to solve cases like this must have spurred so much innovation.
Yeah, it's like out of this horrific darkness, some light emerged, even if it was, a very slow and painful process. It's just incredible that a case from, 1888? Is still so relevant, still debated, still shaping how we think about crime and investigation today?
It really is, and that, I think, is why it just keeps pulling people in. It's a puzzle, a horror story, and a historical lesson all rolled into one. It's enduring.
Wow, James, what a journey into the fog of Whitechapel tonight. Thank you so much for taking us through that.
Yeah, it's been a lot, hasn't it? Just thinking about all that, but it's just so fascinating.
It really is. And to all our listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in to Promptly Speaking podcast and joining us on this, unsettling but utterly captivating deep dive into the legend of Jack the Ripper. We really appreciated you being here.
Absolutely. We've gone from the grim streets of Victorian Whitechapel, discussed the tragic lives of the canonical five, explored all those failed investigations and countless theories, and then of course talked about how this case just still impacts us today, which is wild.
Yeah, it really is. And we'd love to hear your thoughts too. Have you read any good Ripper books lately? Do you have a favorite theory you subscribe to, or maybe one you totally just dismiss? Let us know.
Yeah, definitely. Head over to our social media. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter. It's just at Promptly Speaking. And drop us a line there or leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We love hearing from you guys.
We really, really do. And speaking of next time, we've got something totally different lined up for you, but, equally intriguing. We're going to be delving into a famous historical hoax that absolutely fooled the world.
Ooh, a hoax. Okay, I like the sound of that. That'll be a nice little palate cleanser after, all the darkness of the Ripper case.
Exactly. So make sure you don't miss that. Until then, stay safe and, well, keep on speaking promptly.
Bye for now.